Hi there, everyone. Hopefully this will be a quick video on the IELTS Academic Task 1 process description. The reason I say it's going to be short is that this was actually not easy to write a lot about. So I just thought I'd get this one done, let you see some ideas here. So I'll just jump right in. First of all, yes, we are looking at writing Task 1. Here are my general tips. First of all, focus on the analysis first and foremost, all right? You don't need to spend too much time doing that, but, I will even say as much as 5 minutes analyzing what's happening. Probably in this one you can do less. Then try to break it into sections. So if you look over here, we've got a geothermal power plant. The diagram below shows how geothermal energy is used to produce electricity. All right, so it's pretty straightforward. You have underground, above ground. So that's really all you have to do is try to break it into 2 or maybe 3 different sections. This could be 3. You could start here. That could be 1, above ground, underground, and then above ground again. It's up to you. Make a plan. Always make notes. It's easier to just start writing if you have notes. I used to make students take I still make students take 5 minutes to analyze and make a plan, and then it's easy. 15 minutes is more than enough time. They can sometimes write them in 10 minutes if they have a plan. Finally, be flexible with your connecting language. And I'll show you what that means soon. But what I really want to say with that is don't try to, rely on, first of all, secondly, finally, it's fine, but you want to have other ways to connect, which we will talk about. Finally, just a couple of, just my notes here. So what I would actually recommend maybe doing first is take 5 minutes, have a look at that, maybe make some notes. All right, so I'll just open that up for you. Press pause and have a look. All right, welcome back. I'm sure you did 5 minutes. I kept the notes here a bit simpler than in some of my other videos. I just wrote here 2 distinct phases, and I might add in uses water. All right, so one of the things you need to do is have that overall point. Then I broke it into below ground and above ground. And I made a few points of notes here. Water down, you can see here, the water gets pumped down. Geothermal, that's this zone here. And then pump up, the water goes back up. Secondly, or I guess the final paragraph, we've got above ground, condenser, through the generator to the power lines. I kept this one a bit simpler. As I said, my other videos are more complicated just because there's not a lot of data. So based on that, let's just get into it. And I will increase that so that you don't have to squint to read. I would hate for you to face any vision problems in the future. So here we have it. The first sentence, which I've mostly just taken from here. I generally advise don't take 2-3 minutes to try and paraphrase it. Just, write it in. And then here I have my overall. So here I've said overall, the process involves naturally heating water, and it has 2 distinct phases, one above ground and one below. So I've pointed out that the process uses heating water, and I've mentioned the 2 phases. That's what I really felt like. This one generally doesn't have an overall trend, but it's worth mentioning that to start off. Then I mentioned being flexible with your connecting language, and so that's a nice example here. During the underground phase of the process. And, this could be switched with first phase or, depending on the process you get. I think there's another one with a cocoon on a butterfly. So, you might say during the cocoon phase. So this is how I've introduced it. And this also tells me that the whole paragraph is going to be about underground. Cold water is immediately pumped down 4.5 kilometers below the ground and into the injection well, which pumps the water into the geothermal zone, which is made up of hot rocks. Now, yeah, I did not do myself any favors for word count by packing this much information into one sentence. But it still works. And I could, just stop here and say, full stop, the injection well pumps water into the geothermal zone, but I've done it this way. So yeah, it gets put into the geothermal zone. Then, as the water passes through this area, so this is one of the things they really like to see in IELTS is, this area, meaning the geothermal zone. So I've got this referencing language, which is almost as important as these connectors, if not as important. And here again, once this now heated water reaches the production well, it is pumped back 4.5 kilometers up to the surface. So again, this now heated water, so again, I've used my referencing language to connect the information. Then we're up here in the condenser. During this phase at the surface, and I mean, I could just say once at the surface, during the second phase, during the above ground phase, any of those are fine. It's a little unusual, so, because this is kind of a short and unusual task, but, well, that's how it is. The water is collected in a condenser where it is transformed into steam, which I believe I saw one example say a gas state or a gaseous state. That's fine, but I would just use the word. And again, that's a key point there. Just is transformed, passive verb. The steam is in turn. So there's a nice little bit of a nice little piece of language to show process. Passed through a turbine, which rotates. Okay, so over here, the steam passes through to the turbine, which rotates, allowing the generator to produce electricity. So you could say causing the generator to produce electricity, or resulting in the generator producing. I mean, I just think allowing fits best here. Causes might be another good one, but yeah, you can pick either one of those. In the final part of the process, the electricity is transmitted to the power lines and onto the consumers. So this part here, I've just kind of added in for a bit of decoration. I don't recommend doing that too much, but really that's probably what's going to happen. And power lines, I've used my knowledge of vocabulary to do that. By the way, I did also want to point one thing out, going back a bit. I apologize for missing this earlier. Do pay attention to things like this. Is immediately pumped down. And I really just want you to be looking at is, because that's this part here. And be aware that in IELTS, they're not going to put the full pieces of language. Like, it's not going to be correct grammar. So they're just going to say cold water pumped down. It's a note form. So be very careful, because when you're writing that down in your test, you might need to transfer that into the passive voice. Anyway, that's it. As I said, this is going to be a short one because it's kind of an unusual and unusually short task that they've given here. But if you see something I've missed, you're welcome to make a note of it. This is one of the very few that is 150 words. I believe this one is roughly... Ooh, let's take a look. Yeah, this one is less than 150, which is fine. You can be a little bit under 150. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Best of luck, and I'll see you next week.